Hello again, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Today I'm just gonna, you know, try and be candid with you all and tell you that being savior any or lead any in a business environment is not easy at all. Especially when it's compounded with, several of the psychiatric disorders I have, like ADHD for starters, right? Um, but whether you have psychiatric disorders or not, I do want to, I guess, warn you that any as powerful as it can be in the early stages of business, it will kick your ass on the back end of business. Let's say, like when it comes to processes, when it comes to implementation, right? When it comes to making things real. Okay, so why do I say this? I mean, well, I've been in the business world for I want to say it's been about a decade now. I think my first job was when I was, I think, 17 out of college. And I started working at a Fortune 500 straight out of college. Now, I wasn't doing sales per se. I was actually doing human resource related work, like at data entry, dealing with some back end stuff. But there was still quite a bit of customer service involved, and there still was very much an emphasis on, goal accomplishment, the speed in which you do your tasks, and things like that. And yes, I'm sleep last, so I did do a lot of, I would call it, activity. But one of the biggest critiques that I've had on myself and that many of my supervisors have had for me is that I confuse activity with productivity, which I think plays into the NE, but also the TE to some degree. Meaning that I would get so caught up in understanding the system and trying to find better ways for the system that I wouldn't get down and actually do the thing I was assigned to do, right? So that would lead to a lot of procrastination, whether conscious or unconscious, a lot of procrastination in that job. A lot of navel gazing, right? So similarly to the procrastination, I would like look up, different hacks and different systems, and I would try them, and I'd be really excited to tell everyone what system I was trying at that time, right? And people at first would be interested, but then over time, when they saw my results, they're like, okay, you need to stop looking into that type of stuff, right? Um, and I think ultimately it kind of led to I basically sold myself that the job was more grandiose than it really was, right? So I think my any going into that job, I had this vision or this fantasy in my head of, climbing the corporate ladder, and it would be this really almost like a TV show, right? And even though there was potential for that, right? I mean, that's kind of the problem with any. It sees the objective potential, let's say, in any given situation. It's pretty it's realistic in the sense of it is measuring possibilities on a spectrum. So it's like I do think the potential for that was there, but because of the lack of follow through, because of the lack of the SI, basically, it never turned out that way. It became miserable, and I blamed it on the system, and I blamed it on I didn't like the job, and I mean, sure, maybe those things are true, but um, so I ended up quitting that job, and I did a bit of job hunting after that. But one thing that I found is that you know that pattern that I just described to you has pretty much followed me in every job I've had since, right? So I did sales at a retail store in a mall for clothes and stuff like that. Had the same problems, right? I worked actually in a warehouse. I don't know if many people know that, but actually before the warehouse, actually I used to work at a amusement park, and that was like in a really dark spot in my life, man. Like I was not motivated to do anything. That was very like why I live phase in my life. And at that time I was working at an amusement park, and I was making less than minimum wage basically. And that was pretty miserable, but I was having the same problems there in terms of productivity and performance. I worked at as a door-to-door marketer slash salesman for a little while. That was pretty miserable because oh my goodness, like we would work, rain, sleet, or shine, thunderstorms, we were in it all, right? And it was pretty intense. But even there, those problems followed me everywhere. And then even at my current job, this is probably the best job I've had in a long time. Um, but even here, I'm experiencing the same issues, and I'm experiencing the same misery, right? And so, what does that mean? I mean, that's kind of the second half of any, and specifically any would sleep last or demon sleep, is that you don't learn, or I didn't learn how to deal with that core practical problem, right? This is not abstract. This is like, okay, how are you going to be able to perform at your job? How are you going to stay focused? How are you going to stop getting your head in the clouds? I never really solved that problem. And because I haven't solved that SI problem, it's following me to every job that I go to, right? It's kind of haunting me. And so I share this with you, not for any sort of pity, like, I don't need that. It's more along the lines of just sharing. I do believe that this is something that any in general can suffer from in the business world, having all these fantasies and getting so wrapped up in the potential of things that they don't get down to doing anything, right? And in terms of, maybe encouraging you, if you are experiencing that frustration, that you're not alone, but then I guess also kicking your ass in the sense of, it's you, right? It's not the job, right? You can get the best job in the world and you probably would be just as miserable. So I share that with you. If you are in the business environment, I I pray for you, man. Let me say it this way: as I start to find more practical solutions, I will share them with you. But to be quite transparent, I'm still struggling with them. So it's like I don't have anything permanent to give just yet in that area. And I guess if you have any Savior any, and you're finding a way through that very practical problem, I'd love to begin a discussion with you, or at least give you a platform to share as well. I'd love to hear it. So that's about it for my OP business video for today. I mean, it's a weekend at the time of me filming this, so I'm a bit relaxed right now. But I got a lot of business stuff ahead of me that I need to take care of. I got to clean up a lot of stuff. So I'm going to head out. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope this was at least of some value to you, especially if you have Savior NE. And I will see you in the next video that I make. Take care.